Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu as a Ranker. On this episode we're going to be continuing our Albums of the Year list. This time it's 2001, and yeah, 2001 is an absolutely fantastic year. Plenty of amazing records from this year. So without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are my personal top 10 albums from 2001. So we're going to be kicking off this list with Morning View by Incubus, which was the band's fourth album. And yeah, Incubus are kind of from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Rage Against the Machine school of music, a lot of rap fused with metal. To be honest, that's not really my jam. However, my brother was big into Incubus, so I just kind of absorbed this record through osmosis. And on this one, thankfully, the band are kind of dialing back the metal and the rap aspects, and the frontman Brandon Boyd sings on this record rather than raps, which is a good change for me. And on this record, the band are also delving into the more atmospheric, laid-back side. And yeah, plenty of great tracks on this. The opener, Nice to Know You, really nice, old-school, slicey, catchy Incubus. I really love the kind of harmonic guitar riffs on Wish You Were Here. That's just a great single. But my favourite sequence on this record are actually the last three songs. Are You In is just really funky, has that real kind of like Red Hot Chili Peppers vibe, but in a good way. Under My Umbrella brings a bit of metal back to the record. It's a nice kind of punctuation mark at the end of the record. And the final track, Accurate Transmission, has a lot of Chinese guitar riffs and string sections on it. Some might say cultural appropriation. I say pretty cool and atmospheric. So yeah, I like this record despite my general apathy towards Incubus. And this is an easy curtain jerker for this list. Next up, we have The Argument by Fugazi, which was the band's sixth album, and indeed final album, because after this they went on a long hiatus, a hiatus which they never truly came back from. In any case, this was the band's last studio album, and in fact is regarded as the band's best album by the critics. And yeah, I don't disagree. I think this probably is Fugazi's best record. And on this one, Fugazi are melding their usual post-hardcore stylings with more pop sensibilities. This is easily the band's most accessible album. Dare I say, tracks like Cash Out or Full Disclosure are actually, God forbid, catchy. Epic Problem is indeed epic. It starts small and just builds up and builds up and builds up into this huge crescendo, and actually lots of tracks kind of follow that same formula of starting really small and building up into something huge. Oh, and Expectator are really good examples of that. And by the time you get to the closing track, Argument, you're dealing with a completely different genre from Fugazi there. Just lots of clean guitar lines. The lyrics are right up front and easy to hear. So yeah, this is a great final effort from Fugazi, and you know what? I'm kind of glad they decided to call it a day here, because where do you go from this? The only real obvious direction is further into pop territory, and I think that would have basically sold out the central idea of Fugazi. So yeah, pretty badass to go out on a high and just call it a day. So next up we have White Blood Cells by the White Stripes, which was the band's third album, and as I'm sure you know, the White Stripes are a brother and sister rock duo, and as a rock duo there isn't much in the way of excess instrumentation here, not even much in the way of bass and keys. It's basically just guitar and drums. And I do admire on this record the way that the band have negated the kind of basic nature of this record by varying up the pace and texture of the songs. I think that's a very important thing to do on this type of record. And as a general sound palette, the White Stripes have this kind of American deep south thing going on. Their music is kind of like very rootsy or bluesy, yet very much shot through that alternative underground American grunge rock lens. This record is also whip it fast. It's only 40 minutes long, but manages to squeeze in 16 tracks into that 40 minutes, and all of these tracks are pretty good. It's a pretty consistent record, nothing to complain about really. Not really that many highlights either, it's just all good toe-tappingly consistent stuff. Minor highlights include Fell in Love with a Girl, just has that kind of clattering punky sound to it, really energetic. The Union Forever nicely displays that kind of deep south vibe I was talking about. And We're Gonna Be Friends has a lovely kind of acoustic backing and even lovelier lyrics. So yeah, this is just a really good solid album from the White Stripes. Next up we have Amnesiac by Radiohead, which was the band's 5th album and also crucially sister album to the previous record Kid A, so you can expect more of that kind of experimental electronica and post-rock on this record. And critically speaking, this doesn't have the same kind of stellar reputation that Kid A has. That record was seen as a masterpiece, and this one is kind of seen like the leftovers from the Kid A sessions. However, I'm going to have to go against critical consensus on this one because I actually like Amnesiac more than Kid A. It's kind of difficult to say why exactly. I think maybe it's just the fact that on Kid A lot of the melodies were very obtuse. You had to kind of like tease out your own kind of melodies at points on that record. It was a real grower. It was not immediate in any way. But on this one, Amnesiac, there are, stronger melodies on this. I mean, take Pyramid Song, for example. Like, that has an actual melody. Sure, it's a weird off-kilter melody, but it is something you can ostensibly hum. And likewise, tracks like Knives Out are actually, pretty. So I guess I like this one for its more immediately obvious nature. And yeah, the track listing, the roster of tracks on this are pretty damn good. So yeah, this is just another really great post-rock album from Radiohead. Good stuff. Coming in next, we have Melody AM, which was the debut album by Norwegian dance electronica chill-out duo Röyksopp. And yeah, every rock fan needs that one electronica band that they really, truly, deeply love, and that's Röyksopp for me. Yeah, I fucking love this band. I've been to see them live a couple times. They absolutely rule. And this record was easily the band's most successful record. This sold millions of copies worldwide, so it's definitely no slouch in the sales department. And I think it's quite an influential record within the genre of chill out. And yeah, talking about chill out, that's exactly what this is. This finds Röyksopp definitely in chill out mode. This is very much a come down record. Lots of beautiful atmosphere. It's kind of like slow paced and relaxing. Definitely a record to stick on if you can't sleep, because this will send you straight off to La La Land. And just stuffed full of great tracks. The opening track, so easy with its Carpenter sample, really awesome. The shimmering synthesizer riffs of Apple, also really cool. Sparks is again really relaxing and laid back with his beautiful female vocals. You also have a couple tracks which have vocal performances from Erland Øye of the Kings of Convenience on here. Paulino with its kind of stuttering disco guitars, like really awesome. Remind Me, a real stripped back version of Remind Me on the album. The single version is like really thumping, but a really cool relaxing stripped back version on this. You also have tons of ambient spacey mood pieces like In Space and Röyksopp's Night Out and She's So. So yeah, this is just a really great electronica album and a fantastic debut album from Röyksopp. So we're going to be kicking off this top 5 with Libertine by Gene, which was the band's 4th and final album. And like a lot of bands' 4th albums, this finds Gene in a very kind of mature, stately frame of mind, although that shouldn't really be surprising, as being stately and mature has always been Gene's kind of thing. And of course, being mature means being riddled with guilt and desperation, and this is very much singer Martin Roseter's breakup record. There are lots of lyrics on this about romantic abandonment and regret and despair. And sonically, the band really kind of tried to capture that spirit in the music too. These tracks are very clean, very spacious, and feel very, very lonely. And I feel like this is a really kind of concrete artistic statement from the band. And yeah, this is just crammed full of really great tracks. Opening song, Does He Have a Name, deals with the emotional wreckage of getting cheated on, and I love all the orchestral swells over the outro. That's really, really cool. Likewise, Is It Over is just a head and hands slice of just straight misery. But that's not to say that every song on this record is a complete downer, although most of it is, to be fair. Like, there are a couple of really good upbeat tracks on this. We'll Get What We Deserve and Yours for the Taking are pretty euphoric and have reggae elements and disco elements respectively. And You is just this huge grandstanding upbeat ballad basically teaching Coldplay how to suck eggs. So yeah, ultimately this is just a really good finale for Gene and a fitting epitaph for a much underrated band. Next up we have Is This It, which was the debut album by The Strokes, and yeah, this is very much a case of style over substance, but in this case it really works because this record just crackles with that kind of ultra cool underground New York City indie vibe. And yeah, this album also helped popularize that really awesome twin guitar style where each guitarist plays a simple 1 or 2 note chord but combines them to create a new chord. It's just so fucking cool, and I absolutely love the interplay of the guitars on this album. Of course, that style would go on to be widely prevalent after this, with Interpol pretty much immediately taking up the mantle, but it all started right here with this album by The Strokes. Yeah, and the guitars on this are so damn cool that I rarely actually pay attention to what is going on lyrically, but there are some damn catchy tunes on here, such as Someday, Last Night, and Hard to Explain, but my favourite on this is New York City Cops, they ain't too smart. It's just super catchy, although with the trigger-happy nature of America's Boys in Blue, I'm surprised Julian Casablancas hasn't been found shot dead in a Brooklyn back alley somewhere. But yeah, this album is just so damn cool, and back in 2001 it really sounded fresh and like a genuine taste of the future. So yeah, just great stuff by The Strokes here. Coming in third place and taking home the bronze medal, we have Echo Park by Feeder, which was the band's third and indeed best album. And yet here you have lots of heavyset pop punk and grunge. The entirety of this album is just so super catchy, to the point where some of the catchiest tunes of the 2000s are to be found right here. Buck Rogers with its monolithic chorus of I think we're gonna save it, I think we're gonna make it, yeah, just always brings the house down. Likewise, the bruising heaviness of 7 Days in the Sun is also just a sing-along classic. But for me personally, I actually really love the more kind of emotional side to this album. Huge ballads like Oxygen and Satellite News make you want to get out your lighters, and tracks like Turn and We Can't Rewind have bands like Travis just sniffing around and begging for table scraps. So yeah, ultimately, Echo Park is just something of a minor masterpiece and an absolutely amazing record to put on when the sun is out and the good times are rolling. Silver medal time, and the silver medal is going to go to Origin of Symmetry by Muse, which was the band's sophomore album. And the difference in quality between this album and their debut is pretty damn startling. And yet, here you have lots of spacey nerd rock crossed with elements of classic rock and experimental Radioheadisms. It's a really heady mix and works extremely well, not least because Matt Bellamy knows his way around an awesome guitar lick or obfuscating keyboard line. And yeah, this album has one of the best A-sides of all time. Its first half is just chock full of classics. I mean, Newborn with its Candyman sounding keys, Bliss, which is my personal favourite track from the album, has awesome metal riffs and swirling sequences. Space Dementia features awesome classical piano, and Plug-in Baby is just fucking phenomenal and just one of those go-to tracks if you're learning the guitar. Absolutely brilliant. The back half isn't quite as strong, but it's still great. I mean, Citizen Erased does the whole paranoid android thing, while Screenager and Dark Shines have some really compelling ethnic sounding riffs on them. So yeah, this record really sets up the kind of virtuoso nature of Muse, and is a damn impressive sophomore effort. Great stuff. So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the gold medal for 2001 is going to go to Quiet is the New Loud, which was the debut album by Norwegian folk duo Kings of Convenience. And yeah, as a folk duo, this band is obviously taking a lot of cues from Simon and Garfunkel and Nick Drake, but there's also some obvious 80s indie rock influence on display here too. A lot of elements of the Smiths and R.E.M. come trickling through, and yeah, I absolutely love this band and this record. The way Erlen Oy's and Eric Glenbeck Bohr's voices combine is just sheer magic, as is their dual acoustic guitar playing. As you can imagine, things are pretty stripped back, but there are tunes for days on this LP. There are no bad tracks on this record, and each song has its own little hook. The album is pretty much entirely comprised of highlights, but standouts include the opening, Winning a Battle, Losing a War. It tells you exactly what you're in for and is delicate in just all the right ways. I Don't Know What I Can Save You From is beautifully dour. The Passenger is a song that I used to regularly cover with my own band, and the closing track, Parallel Lines, has a thick atmosphere and a really beautiful, mournful piano line. However, my favourite song of this is Summer on the West Hill, and it's genuinely one of my favourite songs of all time. The lyric, I will never know the names of these places that I travel through to reach the coastline. It's just one of my favourite lyrics ever. It just reminds me of all the beautiful travel that I've ever gone on in my life. So yeah, I could just gush and gush about this album. But hey, we all have places to go. Basically, if you haven't heard this, then you are really missing out and should rectify that as soon as humanly possible. It's an absolute masterpiece. Mwah, chef's kiss for this record. And that's it. That's my list. But that might not be your list for 2001, so please sound off in the comment section and tell me all the classic masterpieces that I've missed. Like, share, subscribe, and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Check back for my 2002 list, and by the way, 2002 is an absolute fucking banger of a year. But most importantly, just keep on ranking.
The sun sets on the wall, the day breaks and everything is new. The sun sets on the wall, the day breaks and everything is new. And everything is new. The sun sets on the wall, the day breaks and everything is new.